When I see what's going on right now with Iran and Russia and China, and then I see the rest of the world, and I have to imagine most people are like you and I. But unfortunately, most people are quiet and their voices go unheard and they assume it's someone else's problem. And that's part of the problem. And I was part of that problem. And I think it's imperative that, and it's not just about everybody put your weapons down, because that's not the real world. Right and wrong sometimes is very clear, and other times it's murky.
So I am the founder of Market Movers. Market Movers is a company that I created to help law firms increase revenue. We have different strategies to, not just bring in new clients, but also save you time and stress. I started Market Movers after I finished law school. So I went for law school in Brazil, moved back to the United States. My husband's American, and just had to be created after COVID, after having some kids. I had two kids. I have two little baby boys.
How old are your children?
They are 2.5 and 1. So I had two back to back. Very busy, very busy.
Well, my first children were twins, so I get it.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah. So you get, it's almost like twins. Yeah. They're like Irish twins. And it's been very busy. But anyways, I was working, I worked for some law firms during law school. I also worked for big corporations like PricewaterhouseCoopers, PwC. It was very fun, but I miss the sales, like the business, because I always work with sales in Brazil. I had my own businesses in Brazil. And after I finished law school, I was like, I don't want to be a lawyer, right? Like I want to do more. Like I want to have something different. But then COVID happened. So much things happened during this past few years, and I saw a lot of my friends from school struggling to get clients, right? Because you go to law school, you learn legal stuff, but you don't learn business.
Well, you learn how to study legal stuff. You don't necessarily learn much legal stuff. So
It's true.
there's a nuance. And by the way, so obrigado for inviting me.
Yeah, obrigado.
I've been
Fala
to Sao
português?
Paulo. I've been to Sao Paulo twice in Rio.
Okay.
When I was married. Otherwise, I met a few women I would have loved to have dated.
The
My
women are
yeah,
beautiful.
my family's from Israel, so I always grew up with very olivey skinned, dark-haired people.
Yeah, yeah,
So that's sort of home to me on
yeah.
some level, even though I grew up in the United States. I was at the government. I used to prosecute for the Securities and Exchange Commission.
Mm.
And then I went from the SEC to Pricewaterhouse, PwC.
Oh, no,
I
what?
was also PwC. I stayed a little less than a year to go to a law firm because I was worried I would lose my credentials as a lawyer.
Yeah.
Not my degree, but how the world looked at me. And went from the large law firm, which was a learning experience that I would say I didn't like how it went, but I had a hand in it and maybe I could have done better.
Mm.
And then I went from there. I interviewed, had offers at other large law firms, and I chose a small law firm for a range of reasons, saying it would be a different, healthier environment.
Mhm.
And it wasn't. And then I founded this law firm with two other guys, and all I had was 30,000 in business. And my
Wow.
twins were 6 months old, and I had just turned 30. And I had
Wow.
a mortgage. I might have had $10,000 in the bank. My ex-wife was home with my children. And
Oh,
so now we're 27 lawyers, roughly 40 people. What I do is very global. So I understand about business development,
mhm.
client servicing, practicing law,
Mhm.
managing. It's a never ending experience.
Yeah.
And like being a parent, you always screw it up.
It's true. It's
I know
true.
it's true.
Do you only have twins or did you have
No,
other?
I had one more after the twins.
Okay.
So my twins are now 28.
About my age.
And my youngest is 24. Close to my children, have dinner with my son tonight, but I see my kids routinely.
Mhm.
I'm friendly with my ex-wife. I am dating someone with three younger kids. So I,
Mhm.
I enjoy, I'm very family oriented.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I
Same.
enjoy that.
My
Just,
family in Brazil was huge, and moving here to United States, my husband only has one sister and a mom. His dad passed when we met. His sister doesn't have any children yet, so it's only me, my husband, his mom, and his sister, and now the boys. But it's so different. Like I miss so much having like community, because in Brazil and I don't, not everywhere in Brazil, but most places, your family grow together. Like you buy houses next to each other. Like it really is a community. So, for example, my grandmother, all her children, all her 5 children, they live in the same neighborhood, so they can walk to each other's house and they have meals together. It's very nice, but it's a different world here, and I enjoy too. But I would like my kids to have the chance to experience that in
Yes,
Brazil.
having family is very important.
Having family, exactly. Having, like, it doesn't even have to be like blood family, but having community, having people that care about them, not just me and my husband. But yeah, I feel you. It's so different. It's after you have kids, your world just changed so much, and I'm still learning how to navigate it all.
You know what? Every cycle is a different learning experience.
True, true. Everybody says that too. Like, enjoy right now, they're little. And I always ask, is it gonna get easier? They're like, no, it's just gonna get different. It's still gonna be hard, but it's gonna be a different hard.
Now, the things you worry about at each stage, some of the stages are age related, some of them are familial related, and you're also in your individual experience, whether you have a successful career or successful meaning you can pay your bills and save money.
Yeah.
You have healthy relationships, and whether you do or you don't will also influence what you worry about.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
So what are I apologize because I've been running around. So what topics would you like to discuss?
So the whole purpose of this interview is to get some better insights into the legal industry. Of course, this is going to help us improve our services, but coming to these interviews, I just thought that it would be very selfish of me if I just keep all these great insights for myself. So that's why I decided to create this white paper. So far, I think we interviewed 33 partners. We've been getting like crazy, amazing insights. And so I think it's going to be a few more weeks until we finish, and then we're going to finish a white paper I'd love to share with you too. But yeah, I just wanted to ask about, I'm going to ask you some questions, is really about the market, the trends. But so yeah, my first question will be, what current trends have you been noticing in the markets right now? What winds are blowing? What are you aware of?
So one of the trends appears from my perspective is that the market and the legal community is starting to soften. It's been softening for the last 10 to 12 months. It had not affected me because of the area of practice, or had not affected me as much because the area of practice is more narrow and we are known for that area of practice, that niche. But what I believe is occurring is the population of clients is declining, while at the same time, the number of people the number of people trying to practice or practicing this field has increased exponentially over the last 10 years. And the consumer does not know how to differentiate what's the right fit for them. They presume it's price only, or they also only think of it at times as this one instance in time, as opposed to if somebody's helping set up a vehicle or a product, in my opinion, it's important that that party be able to service the product during the life of the product. I'm having the same issue right now in my house. I hired somebody for technology. It's complicated. Unfortunately, he died 8 months ago. His stepdaughter inherited the business. While she's caring, she's overwhelmed, and she's dealing with things she's never dealt with, and they don't have the ability to ongoing service me. Newer people don't want to touch the product because they're afraid it's a mess. Same thing happens in law. So while I'm now seeing people who paid either individuals, I don't even want to say law firms, because what is a law firm? Is a law firm one person practicing in an LLC? Or is a law firm 10 people, 100 people, 500 people? Technically, it's any individual practicing, but that doesn't necessarily mean, and it's not just size based, but we're seeing product now that's deficient. People are coming to me and the structure is wrong from a tax perspective, the regulatory perspective. They weren't asked all of the questions that are really relevant in structuring the product. And there's things that are missing or maybe missing, but they've already spent 60% of what they would have paid us. And now they feel they cannot afford it, or emotionally, they don't want to go through that again.
Yeah, makes sense. Do you, so I saw in the website that I think your main goal is financial services, right? Do you help law firms with financial services too? Is law firms one of your niches or no?
No, no, it's an interesting trend. And what part of the trend is I asked a family member of mine who practices trust and estates in a local community within New Jersey. And early days of when he was younger, he would get a lot of work. He also told me other lawyers would call, ask a few questions, they would send him the clients. So in the later years, as the practices grew and other firms came into the space, the same lawyers that would have asked questions to make sure it was a good fit were now asking questions, and he presumes keeping the clients and using the answers to his questions so they can try and do the work.
Yep.
Right now, what I'm seeing is some law firms, and I would say these are the smarter ones, and may say they do this type of work, but don't really have the true depth in the work, are
Mhm.
hiring us to work alongside of them from time to time. But there are so many people, like I said, out there positioning themselves as the right fit.
Mm.
And it's really hard to distinguish that if you're a consumer, even if you go by word of mouth.
Yeah.
People can have a problem with their documents and never know it unless there's a problem.
No.
And it's only when you have a problem that you know whether the work was done adequately or not.
It's so.
It's like an agreement that's never tested.
Mhm.
Who
No.
knows?
Yeah.
So if you and I have an operating agreement for our business and we never have a fight in 25 years, we may never know that if we had a fight, we were deadlocked and either one of us could sink the business.
Wow. It's so true. So how do you test that? Like you just, is that what like is that one of your main goals too? Like to prevent companies to have this type of issue, like as a like a business?
Um, so there's a few things, and being a lawyer, which you and I had started to talk about earlier,
Yeah.
part of it is knowing how to provide the services in your particular niche or area of law.
Yeah.
So if you're a corporate lawyer, it's knowing how to draft contracts. What do the statutes say in the state in which the operating agreement, shareholders agreement, or partnership agreement is governed? That's one vertical. The other vertical, which is not taught anywhere in most situations, is how do you deal with people? First, how do you deal with your colleagues? How do you deal with your bosses? How do you deal with your subordinates? How do you deal with your clients? And each of those relate dynamics requires different skill sets. If you're supervising people, they expect for you to have the answer, whether you do or you don't.
Mhm. Yeah.
So in law school, I remember in certain classes, I remember my professor once saying, if you're in trial, you never ask a question to which you don't know the answer. But I would say if you're managing people, if you're going to ask a question to solicit their feedback, you better well have formed a plan no matter what their response is, because they're looking to you for guidance.
Yeah.
Those dynamics are not taught. Clients, they're all over the place, the same with lawyers. You got good clients, good lawyers, bad lawyers, those that assume responsibility for their actions, those that don't, those that finger point. So a challenge is when you're in heated or stressful situations, no one trains you how not to lose your, I'm allowed to curse, I say, no one teaches you how not to lose your shit. And when we lose our shit, we've lost the entire argument, even if we're in the right.
Yeah.
So I had that happen in my personal life 2 nights ago. I haven't lost it in like 15 months. Something got under my skin. Even though I was in the right, I no longer was in the right.
Yeah.
And I'm paying the consequences. But that's an integral part of what we do as lawyers. It's
Mhm.
also experience,
Mhm.
meaning most, while I have not seen everything in my field, I've seen more than most people. And that's very helpful because you're not, you at least have one path or maybe more than one experience to say, well, we've done it this way and that way. I have that come up almost weekly on so many different ranges of issues. It
Yeah.
just came up with an issue regarding trademark for one of our clients, and I'm not a trademark lawyer. And I explained I'm not a trademark lawyer, but I said in these several situations where it's occurred previously, this is how we've handled it and it's worked. And if
Yeah.
you want, I'll put you in touch with our trademark counsel. So when you ask about trends, the ever since 2008 in the financial crisis, people have been consuming goods and services differently than they had previously. Think about how you shop for things.
Mm-hmm. Just
Yeah.
more. Yep.
I think there's like, I think there was, I was at a dinner last night and they were talking about, I can't think of the app that now has to sell itself to the United States. But they were watching the different hand signs that people make between the generations. How do you show a heart? How do you do laundry? How do you
Oh,
do this?
yeah.
And when you just said that about what I said,
Mhm.
it's an indication of it's a generational indication. But the point is, as a lawyer, I have learned that while I can try and educate people on how to consume legal services, I'm not going to win clients by teaching them.
Mhm.
They're forming their decision. They're generally not open to it, and they have variables that they're testing.
Mhm.
And in their mind, if it ain't broken, don't fix it.
Yeah,
So
I like that.
until you get burned,
Mhm.
give you an example. I have a client who became a close friend when I first met him. In terminating somebody pursuant to a contract, sometimes those agreements can have cause as a requirement versus non-cause. And if they terminate somebody for cause, the person gets less than if they were terminated without cause. So in this case, he spent an hour going over a paragraph. Why? He had accepted language in prior agreements, and 1 year in a different business,
Mhm.
he lost millions of dollars because he wasn't as attentive as to the language.
Yeah, I see that. Yeah, absolutely. And what would you say, what is happening in the markets that's making the landscape more challenging over the years, besides, all that we already talked, but
Oh,
especially
well,
about.
you have an influx of marketing through the internet,
Mhm.
and we all consume goods, myself included. I buy things off of Instagram as
Mhm.
as well as like a Google search. I
Mhm.
built a house. I've sourced so many things in my home that are really good quality
Mhm.
by finding the right contractors at times.
Mhm.
So in many cases it works, but in many cases it doesn't.
Mm.
And it's hard to distinguish what works or doesn't work, like I said, until you have a bad experience.
Yeah. Okay.
And having a bad experience is learning it. But then the other component is what's also contributing to it is people have become more cost conscious. They realize it's harder and harder to launch a business. The only thing you can control are your expenses, not your revenue.
Yeah.
So you add in weaker economy, people are tightening their belts,
Mhm.
an influx of people that are trying to provide the same goods and services without an ability for the consumer sometimes to know, and that we're all in a rush. We
Yeah.
probably spend more time picking out clothing than we do maybe our doctors or dentists or lawyers.
Oh yeah, yeah, absolutely. So now that we're talking about clients, what are the methods of clients acquisition systems like you've been using? Is like mostly like referrals, like during this 26 years?
When I first started, there were no referrals to be had.
True.
So I started writing white papers and publishing.
Mm.
It was the early days of conferences
Mhm.
when there were not conferences every day of the week on every subject 20 times.
Mhm.
So I spoke at all of the conferences. I traveled around the country and the world to speak publicly. I went and I felt like I was running for president. I
Wow.
went to breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I don't know, 14 days a week. It was never ending. And then I would work nonstop,
Wow.
early in the morning till late at night
Mhm.
with all those things. So I was marketing and building and working hard, working probably too hard and less efficient. Um, when COVID hit, it was a reset on how we market. And you
Mhm.
mix that in now with AI and the growth of other social apps. So marketing, television has evolved. I've done a lot in the media. I did a lot on TV and radio
Mhm.
through my relationships and people appreciating my perspective on
Mhm.
the substance and the commercial aspects of what I do. Because
Mhm.
law is not practiced in a vacuum. Law is just one variable to whatever's going on. It's money, it's relationships of people,
Mhm.
it's is it still a good opportunity or not? It's about partners. There's so many different variables.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So I started hosting my own private events,
Nice.
still continue to speak. still continue to publish, but it's going through its next set of stages.
Mhm.
And the challenge can be there's never ending opportunities to market, and money is finite, time is finite. So when you have a thriving business, we have to be more intelligent with those finite aspects.
Mhm.
And it's not just throwing mud on a wall. It is and it isn't, because sometimes you don't know and you have to. You don't
Yeah.
have to, but it's worth the risk.
Yeah. Do you have a podcast? I think I saw like a podcast
I'm in the
video.
process of launching a podcast. I was
Oh.
trying to find somebody to do it with who's not another middle-aged Caucasian male, but I had trouble finding, and it wasn't look, I was not looking for anybody who's a lawyer, but I'm in the process of doing it. My challenge now is just finding the I realized I don't want to do all the administrative work behind the scenes. I do enough of it in my day to day. I just need to be able to get the guest booked and show up.
Yeah.
And the problem is every person I speak to that has a podcast, 100% of the people are using different software.
Yeah.
I've not heard the same software used twice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. There's so many options right now. I get it. Like, so what are you thinking? Are you thinking maybe like find like a studio, or are you gonna like, or build your studio in the office?
No, I mean, when we do it, I think I'm going to do it from my home.
Okay.
The only scary part there is, I shouldn't say scary. The one concerning part is I have a piece of art
Yeah.
in my study that is a scary looking piece of art.
How come?
So it's a very, very dark piece, pretty black. It's a portrait
Uh,
of somebody that looks not happy. Um, I'm gonna go with it.
yeah.
So I'm excited.
Mm-hmm.
We partner and I have probably at least 10 guests lined up right off the bat
Yay.
of certain high profile.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So it's not about one subject.
I was gonna ask, yeah, like what is the subject?
So it's called Unfiltered Finance. And my guest and I both are in finance or securities to some greater degree. But I want it to be something a broad range of people are curious about.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I don't
Okay.
want it to be
Not just-
narrow. I don't want it to be about my vertical in law,
Yeah.
but I focus on private funds. I
What is
don't
that?
want it to be just about private funds, hedge
Yeah.
funds, private equity funds, venture capital funds.
Mm-hmm.
I want it to be about your life experience
Okay.
and your business and the challenges you've had and what motivated you to do it. And how do you deal with the self-doubt that arises? Am I
Mm-hmm.
doing the right thing with my time? Am I getting the right yield? And I know to some degree it it fits in with what's going on in your life at this time in history
Mm-hmm.
because you built it around that.
Mm-hmm.
But if you were to go get a more traditional job, it's all of those things, because no matter where we are in age, whether you're 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, all of these things are going on in your head.
Yeah.
And it's not that I'm only going to learn from people who are older than me. My children are all in their 20s. I learn from my kids all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a podcast I listen to, which I'll give a shout out, that I enjoy, called Founders. And he routinely says from time to time, we forget that we forget.
Yeah, I love that. I am super excited to know about your podcast more. When is it coming live? Do you have any date?
I don't have a hard date yet.
Yeah.
It keeps getting pushed out because I'm realizing practicing law, meeting with prospective clients, managing lawyers,
Mm-hmm.
and having some semblance of a personal life leave me very little opportunity to do that and do everything else well.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm already multitasking at an incredible extent,
Mm-hmm.
and I hesitate to start something that I worry whether I can sustain.
Absolutely. Yeah. I was gonna ask you, like, how about like team members? How is it has been for you to find good team members, retain good team members?
It's challenging, but not necessarily for just the obvious reasons. Working with people is a very personal decision. It doesn't seem that way. If you took the money aside, said, how am I spending my time as a person, optimist, pessimist, similar drive and ambition, similar work ethic, so similar empathy, what are their communication skills?
Mhm.
So I would say, as probably everybody in the workforce would say, ultimately it's hit or miss. No
Yeah.
matter what tests, no matter what battery of tests you put somebody through, you never know until they're sitting next to you,
Yeah.
till they're working with you, till you can test out their skill sets and their character
Mhm.
and the stuff that makes them human. And then you filter in that we're human and we have blind spots and we fail to completely articulate as well as we should. And we read things with a bias.
Mhm.
You know, there's a thesis that within, I think, the first 30 seconds or minute, you've evaluated a person and you spend the rest of your time trying to validate these assumptions that you've made.
This is so powerful.
So
And
when
dangerous.
yeah, so look, I'm a curious person
Mhm.
and I like people. And as a result, because of that, I like my job.
Mhm.
Every day is a learning day.
Mhm.
And I deal with all stages of personality.
Mhm.
And one of the things I learned early on, right when I started the firm, I hated calling people who owed me money because
Mhm.
they would say things in an effort to make me feel ashamed from wanting to get paid
Mhm.
rather than acknowledging that they're the bad actor.
Mhm.
They would deflect and not own the facts. I
Yeah.
then learned it's helpful if I embrace the things I don't enjoy because
Mhm.
it would change my perspective on how I go about doing it.
Yeah.
It's the same way in every situation that does not go my way, where I used to finger point, I used to blame others. I now look at it and say, what was my role in it? Somehow, some way, I had a hand in it. This
Mhm.
interaction, whether it goes good or bad, we both have a hand in it. In any interaction with a hiring, firing, a client relationship, a good moment, a bad moment, we'll never question the good moments. It's only the bad moments.
Mhm.
But each of us have a hand in it. And we try and disclaim as a society responsibility for the outcome when maybe it was not preventable.
Mhm.
But more often than not, it might have been.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
we don't want to self-reflect honestly. And
Yeah.
that's also it's part of being a good human, but it's integral with everybody who would listen to this or watch this. We're human. We live in a community, or there's a community of 10, 100, 10,000, a million. It's a community.
Mhm.
We still have a
Mhm.
hand in it. So those
Yeah.
are some of the other things I try and remember, because there's plenty of days I have to deliver bad news. And it's not the information itself. People will remember, I'm sure you've heard the saying, they may not remember what you say, but they remember how you made them feel.
Yeah. It's all about how you deliver the message. I agree with you. Yeah. Um, what about metrics? Like, what are the most important metrics for you in your business right now,
For
especially?
which person? For me specifically, for my partners, for our associates.
Let's say for the company as in general, like is it like more clients, pipeline growth, or is it customer experience, or I don't know, what do you guys focus on the most?
I can only talk about what I focus on, necessarily what we focus on.
Hmm.
And I think it has to do with the stage of life I'm in. And this may not sound like reality, but it is. First and foremost, I look around and I try to assess, are the people I'm working with happy? Are they in a good place? And it's not me getting involved in their personal life because I know things go on in some people's personal lives and they're under stress and I can't change that. But in
Hmm.
the ordinary course, if somebody's happy, they tend to do a better job. They tend to positively influence the people with whom they work. Second, it's going to be the client experience. Third, it would be our revenue. It's our expenses against our revenue. And if
Hmm.
profitability changes materially for the negative, it's understanding why so we can cure it.
Hmm.
And then it's also in the business development side. When for 20 years, I literally couldn't take a breath without something else in my face. Meaning it was great. It was manna from heaven. The last 10 years, it's been more volatile, not because our service hasn't improved, just the market is evolving.
Yeah.
And if I put my head in the sand, I'm the one who loses. It's
Hmm.
not go through the world with blinders on. It's
Hmm.
okay. Let me assess. Is it something we're doing here? Is it the marketplace and the area of practice we're in? Is it, and you try and assess the answer, you'll never know. Sometimes I know it's cost.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we're at the lesser expensive side of what we do of the firms that are recognized in the field we're in. There's always going to be somebody charging less.
Yeah.
But the consumer, like I said, I could get angry at it. There's times like initially it'll happen, I get upset, but the upset usually doesn't last more than a day.
Mm-hmm.
And I've run into people who have switched lawyers only to come back to me to say, we want to come back to you,
Wow.
or they regret it. It's like every other relationship in life,
Mm-hmm.
dating and marriage,
Mm-hmm.
and your friends, the other couples you know and hang out with that have young kids that you meet through your children, that community will have its stresses. It evolves as your family evolves. So
Mm-hmm.
everything I would say for the practice of law applies to everybody's life, no matter what you do, whether you're home with children, whether you have your own company, whether you're an employee at a corporate office. They're fundamental rules.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I love the number one thing for you is to keep your attorneys happy or people happy, because you're right. Like you can only do so much by yourself. And you did it, right? Like for a few years, like starting a company and you were working 14 days out of the week. It's a lot. So if you don't have the right people, you can scale. And it's not just that too. I feel like it's a lot about is there something rewarding, right? Like about keeping everybody happy and you know, like a healthy environment. So I love that. What about your goals? I think this will be actually my last question. What are your goals for the next 12 months?
For the next 12 months, it's to assess the financial services industry, where the opportunities are. What are the correct price points? Because one of the other trends we do see, by the way, going back, is we've all read all the law firms keep raising the rates, and the large law firms have raised them over and over and over and over. And one of the things that's communicated behind the scenes is that profitability has only sustained by virtue of raising the rates, not because there's been an increase or greater efficiency in the business. Yet, the other thing we're starting to hear is that these law firms have raised the rates, are giving work away for free for part of the business so that they can get paid rates in other aspects of the services they provide to the same business.
Mm.
How true that is and how industry based that is, I don't have an answer for you. But I suspect, other than for like the top tier Fortune 100 type of businesses, the rest of the firms in the country are under a lot of pressure. Two, I'm also starting to read that general counsels are getting pay cuts, which I haven't read in years. So if that's occurring internally, that will mean it will occur externally. That's the tea leaf read, if I'm reading tea leaves. So what's next? The what's next is the same. It's Groundhog Day. It's the same thing every year. It is, how stable is my business? How stable are our clients? Are our clients diversified in size and services? How are my colleagues doing? Where might I see the next problem? Is it at a client that is taking on too much risk? And as a result, we might take on risk indirectly. Is it collectibles and people are not paying their bills? Is it a partner that doesn't seem happy, or an employee that doesn't seem happy? And the signs are there. We're often really busy. We often blow it off like, it's not that important. Or I'm imagining it, or I'm being insecure.
Yeah.
We all have instinct. We have instinct for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if every day you're pulling the fire alarm, your instinct needs to be reset and somebody needs to beat you up a little. But by and large, I trust my instincts.
Mm-hmm.
They're not 100%, but they're invaluable.
You've been here, yeah. You've been doing it
Yeah,
for
and then the other
6
thing is, what do I do? What do I do to test myself?
Mhm.
What challenges do I want to face?
Mhm.
And how do I continue to brand our firm? How do I grow my business? How do I help my partners grow their business? How do we grow our business together? What are we missing to create more and more unity among us?
And help more people, right? Because I think it's all about, you know, delivering a good service. You're helping people we need, company. By the way, who is your dream target? Like, who is your dream client? Is it like big corporations, or do you work with everybody, customers?
So good. That's a great question. We're always looking to move upstream to the larger clients.
Yeah.
But on an individual basis, and this sounds not believable, but it's true, my favorite clients are the ones that are appreciative. My least favorite clients are the ones that commoditize what we do. Those are the people that don't know how to manage people. I'm not going to change them, and it's a cost of doing business.
Mhm.
I will never be wealthy enough to turn down a client because they commoditize us. That's
Mhm.
just the truth. Now, if somebody's mean, rude, or vulgar to any of our team, I've been on the phone with occasionally a client saying, look, you can't treat the staff that way. If you do, we're just not a good fit for you. And I usually have the person that's been abused sitting in the room quietly so they hear me say that to the client. I want everybody here. Look, I am responsible for every single person here, whether they're a partner, an associate,
Mhm.
back office, it doesn't matter. I'm responsible for them.
Mhm.
I believe they know that that's how I look at it, but it's an important, for me, it's an important sense of who I am.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. All right, actually, this will be my last question. It's been so nice talking with you. If you had a magic wand that you could wave and solve one thing right now, what would that one thing be?
It would be global peace. It's really upsetting to me living in the United States, and I was born here, but I'm a first generation American. I like the diversity of the people we have. I like the fact that you're Brazilian connectivity because you're going to have perspective that I lack, and I'm going to have perspective that you lack. And if we respect each other, we can learn from one another. So when I see what's going on right now with Iran and Russia and China, and then I see the rest of the world, and I have to imagine most people are like you and I, but unfortunately, most people are quiet and their voices go unheard,
Mhm.
and they assume it's someone else's problem. And I was, and that's part of the problem, and I was part of that problem. And I think it's imperative that, and it's not just about peace and everybody put your weapons down, because that's not the real world. Right and wrong sometimes is very clear, and other times it's murky. So my family's from Israel. Before October 7th, I didn't realize there was only 14.999 million other people with Jewish ancestry like me. How much of a minority we were. That were less than, I think, 0.003% of the world population. And I have friends who are Muslim, and I have friends who are Palestinian and Arabic, and we come from similar gene pools. It bothers me that as a world, 99% of the planet doesn't profit from war, but it's the 1% or less than the 1% that profit from war that are perpetuating, and the rest of us sit idly by instead of saying, no, we're not doing this.
Mhm.
This is insanity. Like, if we went back 5,000 years ago and we were living in tribes, I get it. The
Mhm.
only way you knew somebody wasn't going to kill you is if they were a blood relative. But now, no, we need to, as a world society, go above and beyond this. We should be spending our resources on beating cancer, energy, education. And
Mhm.
if it exists anywhere, that means it can happen anywhere.
Mhm.
And that part, I thought we were going into a more gentle, kinder world. LGBTQ was being accepted. Gay marriages in the United States were accepted. In my world, I didn't care your skin color, sexuality, race, career, religion. And I feel that we're in a negative cycle. And so I never spoke up until then. And it's not because I'm Jewish, it's because I believe in a future where I'm hoping that that could be less and less and less and a thing of the past, that we evolve. Now, our technology evolves. We're not always evolving as a group of people. So if I could wave a wand, I don't want you to think I was saying that to win brownie points with anybody. If anybody goes to my LinkedIn, I try and post things in an objective way. Granted, I'm biased, I'm human, but I really try to be objective, and I try to lead by example.
Yeah.
And I'm human and I feel, and I have my weaknesses. Like I said, I lost it 2 days ago. Even though I felt I was in the right, that was my bad. And I feel genuinely apologetic, but it's important. We all make mistakes. What's important is how do we learn from our mistakes? And so anybody who hear, like, I don't know if you're rebroadcasting this as a podcast
I
or
would
just a
love
white
to. Yeah.
paper. So if you do, I would love for this to go viral.
Yeah.
I don't want to be elected. I don't want notoriety, but I want to create an idea, because it's hard to kill an idea. And ideas, good ideas, can spread like wildfire. And I don't want to go around hating anybody.
Mhm.
I don't want to judge anybody. All that comes from places of fear. And I
Well,
don't walk around the world angry or fearful.
yeah.
It goes back to it. It wasn't until I got divorced I reassessed my priorities.
Mhm.
My number one priority is being happy.
Mhm.
And as a result, if I'm happy, I make those around me happy. And my perspective influences others. And I know it already is. So I feel great about that. Because if you can make the world a better place, what better gift can you leave behind or live in? So
Mhm.
that's my wish.
Yeah, I love that. This is really, really nice. And well, thank you so much for talking with me. I would love to broadcast this. Yes, if
Please,
you don't
Jessica,
mind,
you have my permission.
great. I'll share it. I'll tag you, of course. I
And I'll
appreciate
put it on, and I can always put on my LinkedIn. I have close to 24,000 followers.
what I was gonna say. Yes.
So it'll get, on average, it gets 10 to 50,000 hits a week.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, that's great. Yeah, I'll definitely I'll post on YouTube and then I'll post on my LinkedIn. I'll tag you and I'll share the link with you too. That would be very
Perfect.
nice because this is all, this is absolutely what I love the most about this business, about marketing and sales and networking because you get to meet people every day and what you said, like, I might have something different to share with you and you might have something different. We're always learning, right? Like this is the only way to evolve is to connect with people and learn and make mistakes and learn from your mistakes. So I love that. Well, thank you so much for your time. I would love to talk to you more about this too, like how, I have some like great ideas that it might be beneficial for you and your company too, how to grow your business through this foundation of, getting to know people and creating relationships. Is not salesy at all. It's not advertising. There's nothing to do with
Look,
salesy
I'm always
advertising.
open. Shoot me a message. I'll
I'll
honor
send you a
you.
message on LinkedIn and then, yeah, we can do
Yeah.
that. Awesome. Thank you so much.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you.
Have a good day.
Oh, you too. Bye-bye.